I don't know if I've told you this lately or not. I don't know if I've mentioned to you how grateful I am for the opportunity to be here with you. I didn't really know what I was getting into. My friends and family from up north, they'll call and they'll say, well, how you like it down there, Jim? I said, well, they told me about the heat, but they didn't really tell me about the humidity. But what they really didn't tell me about were the people. And I suppose that's what I've come to love so much about being here. So much that I just feel grateful. I feel privileged. I just wanted to say thanks. I like being here. Well, I'll be honest with you. I am something of a competitive person. I like to excel. I like to do my best, do my finest. I push myself no matter what I'm doing, almost in every endeavor. You see, I'd rather finish first than second. It's just what I like doing. And that's why, I don't know, this time of year, it's easy for me to get caught up in things because it's that time of year. It's that time of year again when football begins. Now, I guess I should be honest with you. I'm not much of a pro fan. I'm a college fan. Yeah? Okay. Well, let's get a show of hands. How many are pro fans, if you're fans at all? Really? Really? Wow. How about college fans? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you see, my problem, I told you I'm competitive, but my problem is I went to Illinois. And we don't win many games. I mean, check the box score from yesterday. It was painful. My only consolation is that Kevin Hennessy went there as well. And so we just sort of grieve together every Sunday. Every Sunday. The victories are few and far between. And so I began thinking, well, maybe my victories won't come through the football team and on the field. Maybe I have to go looking elsewhere. You see, some Christians and Christian churches, they see their faith through this particular lens as well. Have you ever noticed? Oh, yeah. They get into picking winners and losers, who's a real follower of Jesus and who's not, who they think's going to heaven and who they think's going to the barbecue. They want to know who's the top bowl finisher in the church division, meaning who's got the taller steeple, who's got the bigger budget, more kids in Sunday school. We apply the same standards to church, you see, that we use in sports, and we start picking winners and losers based on this, and instead of maybe the standards that, say, Paul suggested when he wrote to the church at Philippi. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, think on these things and put them into practice, and then you will come to know the peace that passes all understanding. That's what Paul said. Now, that's a different switch. And, maybe being from Illinois, that could be my only option. I wanted to tell you a story today. I wanted to tell you the story of what I consider to be the greatest play in the history of football. Would you like to hear that story? I really mean that. For me, it is the greatest play in football. I remember it like it was yesterday, but it was 28 years ago. It was September 16th, 1995, and the Arizona Wildcats had come to Champaign-Urbana for a football game. My buddy George and I were in our usual seats, section L, row 52, seats 4 and 5. We knew everybody. We were excited, you see, because this was an important game. We really had hopes for this season's team. We thought we had everything necessary to go a long ways, but we had dropped the opener to Michigan. Of course, we dropped the games to Michigan ever since I've been born. We lost to Michigan, and the week before we had lost a close one to Oregon. So when Arizona was coming to town, all the chips were on the table. We had to win that game, Ernie. We had to win that game. It was critical. And so by the time it was 1 o'clock game time, you could feel the electricity in the air. We were all standing on our feet. The band had played Star Spangled Banner. The coin had been flipped. The sides had been chosen. Everybody was lined up, and we were standing there jingling our keys. Why they jingle keys, I will never know. But we were jingling. And then it happened. The teams were out there. The kicker, had gone back to kick the ball. And he was all ready. And all of a sudden, Arizona called a timeout. They called a timeout before the game had even begun. You only got 3 timeouts in the half. They're precious. You guarded them. Before the game even started, Arizona called a timeout. I remember standing there with 57,136 other fans, stunned. What were they doing? What's going on? Had somebody died? We didn't know. And then Arizona had all their players line up on both 40-yard lines, one after another. They took their helmets off. They raised them heavenward, and they bowed their heads. Some of them went out to the 50-yard line, and they formed the initials DT for Damon Terrell. Brant Boyer, Billy Johnson, and Jay Phillips were the team captains that year. But it was Sean Parnell who was Damon Terrell's best friend, who stepped forward to initiate the tribute. You could have heard a pin drop as he walked to the 50-yard line. And he unfurled a jersey, number 80, for Damon Terrell, his teammate. And I can see it like it was yesterday. He did a 360. And everybody in the stadium understood what the message was. Everybody understood the tribute to their fallen teammate who had died earlier in practice. But the message of the moment was crystal clear. They had given up a precious timeout, but it didn't matter, because you see, there are some things in life that are more important than the final score. Paul said, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, think on these things and put them into practice, he says, and you will know the peace that passes all understanding. You will know that there are some things in life that are more important than the final score. Can I tell you that that moment stuck with me for 28 years? And I had to tell you that story. But there's more to the story, you see. Stuck with me for years, and every year when the fall would roll around and I'd be like Charlie Brown with my Illinois team thinking he's going to be able to kick the ball this time. Am I right, Kevin? Every time it would roll around, I would think of that tribute and the message. I couldn't get it out of my head. What I failed to tell you is that at that very moment, the coach of the Arizona Wildcats, Dick Toomey, was not there at Memorial Stadium in Champaign. He had something much more important to do. I didn't know where he was. I didn't even know what the name of the coach was. But I called the Tucson newspaper in Arizona, and I said, who was your coach back in '95? And they said, Dick Toomey. I said, where is Dick Toomey? And they said, well, he's coaching the Arizona Cardinals nowadays in the NFL. So I looked up his number and I called him at home. I said, Dick, it's likely you've never heard of me. I said, I wanted to ask you a question. Remember back in '95 when you called a timeout? He said, well, I didn't call it, but the team called it. And I said, yeah, your team called it. I said, you gave them instructions. He said, I did. I said, where were you that day? You weren't on the sidelines. He said, well, I was in Los Angeles, California. Los Angeles? He said, yeah. At 1 o'clock, Damon Terrell was being laid to rest. And I thought it was more important that I be present at his funeral than at the ball game in Champaign. And so I had one of my assistant coaches lead the team. There was just something more important to do than the ball game. I said, I heard something about most valuable player. And he said, yeah. He said, let me tell you about that. Every year in Arizona, we give the most valuable player award in the name of number 80, Damon Terrell. I said, why that? Why him? He said, because Damon Terrell was a fellow that made a difference on and off the field. He's the one who understood that there were some things more important than others in life, and we thought that every young man ought to aspire to that, and we thought that we would give the most valuable player award in his name rather than the one who scored the most touchdowns, the most tackles, set the biggest records. Because we at Arizona believe that there are just some things bigger than the game itself. I was sitting at my desk last night and thinking about telling you this story. And I thought, wouldn't it be neat if I could tell you that the game came down and it was all dependent upon one timeout? But it didn't. It's just life. That's how it works. Illinois won that game 9-7, Kevin. whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, think about these things and put them into practice. And the peace of God will be in your hearts and minds through Jesus Christ. May God bless you. And may God bless United Church of Marco Island.